One of the major benefits the Police Dead conspiracy brought to the media was to cash in on it, whether with bogus articles like the one Fred Labor wrote in 1969, or with band created on demand like Billy Shears and the All Americans,
Brother Paul, I'm crying.
or the Mystery Tour.
From Sergeant Pepper to Abbey Road.
However, this phenomenon in 1969 was a great financial advantage for the Beatles, especially as the band was dissolving and Apple was losing money at an alarming rate. Curious fans were buying the back catalogue just to destroy the final grooves of the record by playing them in reverse, trying to capture some hidden messages. For sure, most of you saw the 2010 documentary called The Last Testament of George Harrison. First, it was published as the most important document of rock and roll history. Later the same year, it was reclassified as mockumentary and represented with a brand new website, but still considered by many a piece of strong evidence, especially by those who support the Police Dead conspiracy at any cost. I won't get too deep into the debunking of this abomination of a film, because it is not necessary. As I said, for some people this film is the holy grail, and nothing is gonna change their world. Others, like me, had a laugh at the terrible imitation of George Harrison's voice, but kept on watching and enjoyed the video animation this film offers, which are not too bad. Let's play an audio comparison of the fake Harrison and the real one saying, "We love Paul."
I want to say how much I loved Paul, how much we all loved Paul.
And we all love Paul very much.
Clearly, whoever voice acted George Harrison's cassette never heard of an adult Harrison talking and based his voice acting on a young Harrison. Don't get me wrong, this is a clever, great idea for a film. It works perfectly for the plot. In a way, it reminds me of the Beatles' everyday chemistry story. What annoys me is the time continuity. Since fake Harrison claims Paul died 9th November 1966, why does he talk about the Bachelor cover from June 1966, or even tracks from Rubber Soul? I acknowledge the fact that some people believe in a possible scenario where there were multiple Beatles doubles, or even that the Fab Four were nothing but a creation of the MI5 or the Tavistock Institute. But the movie in discussion is clearly about McCartney's death in 1966, and so this video is about debunking it, not about suggesting alternative theories to the legend. Another time continuity error is the trip to India, which is sandwiched between Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour.
We wanted him to direct Paul's soul to enter and take over Paul's body.
It's like if the director was more concerned to get as much rubbish into the film than actually making something to be used as a guide for new ideas. Most of the clues featured in this film comes from old YouTube videos. However, the author came up with his own. The He Eyes 3.
He be ice for Paul, alongside the number 3 for the 3 remaining Beatles.
The Yellow Submarine meaning coffee.
The rest of us are pointing toward the ground, showing what's buried. The old group right next to the submarine, a metaphor for Paul's coffin.
And the fakest of all, the "Fuck you Maxwell" back mask. Let's hear it.
John added one last line backwards.
Vroeg, heel, mascuin, vroeg, heel, mascuin, vroeg, heel, mascuin.
And now in reverse.
Nuke some oi, koof, nuke some oi, koof, nuke some oi, koof.
Eh? Come do some oil ain't no Beatles lyrics. This fake pointless clue ruins the whole movie. This is not even misinformation. This is intentional mockery at the viewer expenses, and therefore we should disregard it as study material for the Police Dead research. Final thought, overall the film is not bad, the editing is great and fluent. However, would I suggest you to watch it?
No!